Sourcing inventory in bulk for your e-commerce brand might be one of the dumbest decisions you can make as an e-commerce business owner, and in this video I'm gonna explain you why. In my opinion, in 9 out of 10 cases it's a dumb decision, especially if your store is not selling a product that's heavily customized. If you guys don't know me already, I'm Blago and I've made more than $7.5 million in sales with one dropshipping product. I've been doing branded dropshipping for more than 2.5 years now, and I've gone through the full route, okay? I've sourced a product, I've done China fulfillment, and I've also sourced it in the US. So I'm gonna walk you through when it makes sense to order inventory in bulk, when it completely doesn't make sense, and in most cases it doesn't make any sense at all. So stick with me until the end of the video. So the first thing you have to do is pretty much assess the long-term potential of your product, okay? If you're seeing that it's just a seasonal trend and it's not going to sell for years and years, it's not a huge problem that is gonna exist for quite a lot of time, and you don't see a huge potential in the niche itself and also expand to other products, I think it's safer to just stick with Chinese fulfillment and not put in a lot of money, risk a lot of capital to source the product in the States, simply because at some point it might just stop selling. You're gonna have a low season, and you're not gonna be cash flow positive, which is one of the most important things, not only in e-commerce, but in business in general. So I think a lot of people have very unrealistic expectations when it comes to sourcing in bulk, especially since a lot of the gurus are promoting it, that it's pretty much the next big step when you're running a brand. Let me tell you something, I've done like multiple 7 figures in revenue sourcing from China, and I've had no issues with customer support, no issues with feedback score, and I pretty much had like a 4.9 5-star feedback score on my Facebook page. It's definitely doable to have an awesome customer experience, even if you're sourcing from China. So really the big question you have to ask yourself is whether you see long-term potential in the product. Because if you're just selling some trendy product and you just want to make some quick profit, that's absolutely fine, but it doesn't mean you have to put a lot of capital risk and source the product, simply because at some point it might stop selling. It's so hard to predict when you're gonna have a high influx of sales, and you might be in a situation where you have a ton of inventory sitting around and you don't have anything to do with it, right? Because it's not selling, you're not gonna be cash flow positive, and yeah, you pretty much have to wait for a lot of time and potentially lose a lot of money if you don't sell the product at all. If you don't see like huge long-term potential in the niche itself, you don't see yourself running the brand for another like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I would rather be conservative and just stick to Chinese fulfillment, okay? You can still have, as I said, amazing customer experience. You can have branded packaging, custom inserts, and relatively good shipping times. Like you can have 4 or 5 day shipping times if you have a Chinese 3PL, which I'm gonna, go into in a second. But you can have all the benefits of running a brand without actually having to put a whole lot of money and wait for a lot of time to get your products in the States and put your business in a big risk, okay? So my take is you should only order in bulk as a last resort solution when the current customer experience is not good enough and there's opportunity for competitive advantage. So if you see a lot of people still complaining about shipping time even after you try to optimize it, and for some reason you have a low feedback score because of this, then definitely it's worth doing that. And the second reason why you would consider this is if you would have a strong competitive advantage in terms of costs, and you would have much bigger margins. So what you can expect realistically when sourcing in the States is you have to wait for at least 30 days for your stock to arrive. You might go into cash flow issues because of this, especially if you have multiple SKUs and some of them are not selling that well. Also, you have to do proper inventory forecasting, which if you were a dropshipper before, that's a completely new skill that you have to master. And last but not least, it adds in a lot of operational complexity. And honestly, you as a dropshipper, your biggest leverage is not sourcing, okay? I mean, if you're speaking Chinese and you can negotiate the best prices with manufacturers, sure. But your biggest advantage is marketing. And if you have to manage inventory and you add in a lot of time and energy into this, it really takes away a lot of time you could spend on marketing. Because you have a huge opportunity cost here, you can spend all this time on sourcing better creatives, and even with a slightly worse margin, you can outperform your competition and make up for those, lower profits just because you have better and more consistent creatives and you're gonna crush it and your ROAS will be high. I was having a discussion with a guy that was a previous student. He did like more than $5 million in revenue last year, and we were talking about it, and he was saying how he was trying to structure the fulfillment and all those things. And I was like, if you think about it, your biggest competitive advantage as a brand is not, whether you're sourcing the products in the States or not. It's actually how well you're doing the creatives, and at least in my opinion, he was spending quite some time on thinking about that stuff. So it was really distracting. So we both concluded that he might as well just stick to Chinese fulfillment. And mind you, he had like a lot of variants for his store. It was not only one variant that he was trying to source. So he had to coordinate all those different variants, different colors, different designs, and all those things to make it work. And it was quite stressful, and it can easily become very distracting, okay? So especially if you're selling a product with a lot of SKUs, let's say you're in clothing, don't bother much about it before you actually have a lot of excess cash flow and it's not putting your business at a huge risk. Also, I will talk about an alternative towards the end of the video, which might solve this issue for you and still offer a great customer experience and great overall brand. So at this point you might be asking yourself, does it even make sense to source my products in the US at all? And let me tell you my personal opinion. So the first important step here is to pretty much dissect your sourcing costs, okay? Because you have a product cost and you have a shipping cost. There are a few products that have quite heavy shipping costs because they might be quite bulky, they're heavy, or they have kind of unorthodox dimensions. But there are also products that are quite expensive and their intrinsic value is quite high, but their shipping is quite cheap. So when the product cost is high, it doesn't really matter that much where you're sourcing the product, okay? It's more about negotiating better prices with your factory, where when you have shipping cost that is quite significant, especially like if it's a low ticket product, if it's a $4 product shipped to the customer and $2 is the product and $2 is the shipping, 50% of your sourcing cost is actually paid for shipping. So if you source the product in the States and this gets reduced to, 20% of the overall cost, so in total, let's say it costs you $2.50, $3 to ship to the customer, even though it doesn't seem like a lot in absolute terms, it's a huge relative improvement. You have to always look at relative improvements, okay? You have to look at percentages and you have to determine what percentage in your overall gross margin this change is gonna lead to. So to get back to this decision-making framework that I was explaining, in my opinion, you have to get at least 10% additional gross margin, because that really allows you to spend a lot of money on acquisition. And in general, the biggest improvements are in products that are either heavy and are also quite expensive, okay? Ask your supplier or your private agent or whatever you're using to make a breakdown for you, let you know what your shipping cost and your product cost is, and then you can order a small batch of inventory if it really makes sense for you to do that. But I will only do this if I'm already at 6 figures per month level. If you're not at this point yet, that's too big of a risk. As I said, your product might stop selling, and 10% difference on 100K per month is like 10K per month, which is still a significant difference. But if you think about it on a 7-figure level, like on $2 to $3 million of revenue, that's like 200 to 300K in additional profit, bottom line you can make without selling any additional products. So as I said already, in all other cases, there's just better alternatives. And the best solution that I can present to you is just sourcing all of your products in a China-based 3PL, okay? If you want to have branded packaging, fast shipping, and not have to order crazy amounts of inventory, you can simply source your products in a China 3PL, and it's pretty much the same thing as sourcing in the US. You can have the same amazing customer experience. Sometimes it can even be cheaper because the cost of labor for the Asian 3PL compared to the US 3PL is significantly lower, and in some situations you can get even lower overall price for product cost and shipping compared to sourcing in the US. And let me tell you something, you don't have to order thousands of pieces of inventory because you don't have to plan for months in advance, okay? Because your lead time might be very, very low. Because you're shipping directly from the factory through the 3PL, the shipping time is gonna be just a few days for your stock to arrive. So you can be very flexible with the inventory and not lock a huge amount of money before, setting the product, okay? And it really helps with the Chinese 3PL as well. They can be more flexible, they can offer you better and faster service. And also if you're selling products that can expire, that's really a big deal because let's say you're selling cosmetics, they have an expiry date, and you order a lot of inventory in the US, you can sell outdated products, the customer satisfaction won't be that good. Just as a ballpark solution, the more flexible you can be with inventory and the lowest your lead time is, the better your business will run and the more liquidity you're gonna have. Because let's say you have an amazing run with your ads, for some reason, you can scale up pretty quickly, you did a good job on your creatives, you have an offer, you're probably a client already and we're already, optimizing your business for scaling. Now you wanna have as much inventory as possible. And if you have to wait for 30 days for your stock to arrive in the States, you're fucked because you cannot scale. So I'm not using any Chinese 3PLs for my brand, but I know one company that I'm in no way affiliated with. I'm just sharing it here because I know firsthand from my business partner and from my network that those guys are pretty much amazing. And this company is called portless.com. Make sure to check it out in the description. So if you're asking yourself how I'm personally doing it, I'll tell you that I have the absolute best conditions I could ever negotiate with my suppliers. And I have all the benefits from sourcing in the US with none of the downsides. And the way it goes is the following. So the supplier sources the product for free with branded packaging, branded inserts, engraved logo on the product, and custom product manuals. So we have the fully branded customer experience. We still pay on dropshipping basis, so we don't even keep a deposit with them, and cash flow is pretty easy to manage. And in some situations, if we have a problem with our payment processor, we can even pay for the inventory a little bit later. They are a specialized supplier for that specific product that I'm sourcing. It's more of a niche thing. It's not a general product for like a general problem. It's a fan-based store. So we found a specialized supplier for that specific product, and they have pretty good integration with a Chinese warehouse and a US warehouse, so they can manage inventory pretty well. Obviously, we still have to do some inventory forecasting, but as I said, they're pretty flexible and they store all the packages for us. So before big sale events, for example, before Q4, we just tell them, hey, we're gonna scale up a lot, please source as much inventory as possible. And they do that, and obviously since we're good marketers, we sell out all of the stock and we keep very good business with them. But that only comes after selling a product for several years, and that's why I don't really recommend hopping up from product to product, especially if something's already proven to work, because you can just stick with it. Of course it's gonna have its ups and downs, but like we only found this supplier after selling multiple seven figures already with the product, and they actually reached out to us, so we were already crushing it in the marketplace. I was just using a basic Chinese agent that I was always using for testing, and they reached out to us, and since we already had very good numbers with our brand, we could negotiate very good conditions where most people don't have a winner yet or have a product that's selling well, but it's not like doing great numbers, and they already try to optimize those things and source in the US and just focus on the wrong thing. Because like if you're already crushing it, every supplier will want to work with you. But if you don't have the best numbers yet, they won't give you the best conditions, and you can't like set the rules. Because for example, with our supplier, we were like, we want to have US fulfillment, but you're gonna cover it for us. We know we can sell well. We already proved to the market we can sell pretty well. So they were like, okay, there's no risk in working with those guys. So they did it for us. It's not they offered it out of the blue, okay? So when you're crushing it, that's when you can have the best negotiations and get the best conditions, okay? So pretty much in terms of margins, the difference that it made for us was huge. We went from 50% gross margin to 60% gross margin, and that's a high ticket product. So right now, depending on the shipping destination, we make $15 to $20 more per order. In the best months, we do more than 2,000 orders per month. So you can do the math, it's a huge cost difference. So compared to the previous Chinese fulfillment, it's faster, it's better. We have better boxes that are for free. Also, we have unlimited warranty. So whatever breaks with the product, it's a electrical product. So you might imagine that we are getting like higher return rates on average compared to the normal products that are, not electrical. So the supplier also covers that, and I highly recommend, if you're selling an electrical product, to just negotiate with your supplier to give you at least a 1-year warranty. Because obviously, if the product breaks for some reason, it's not you that is the problem, it's the agent or the factory that produced it, right? So the way I would do it if I were to start again, okay, is first dropship with an agent until I have proof of concept with the product and room for scalability. I'm not saying to scale a product that is on 40-50% gross margin, because that's definitely not doable. If you can get some room for improvement in the margin, if you just order in bulk with your agent, do that instead of going full blown on inventory and order it in the US and to wait for a lot of money and put all of your operating capital into inventory. I think that's stupid. You should only do that after doing the initial scaling stage, and you're already doing like 6 figures per month. As I said, source in China first and scale initially to those 6-figure numbers. And then after you already have that proven record, you can reach out to suppliers that are well connected with a US warehouse, because first of all, you have enormous negotiating power. Second of all, you can have the best conditions. You can get all the benefits from sourcing in the US without putting in a lot of risk in terms of capital. And third, it really creates a very good long-term relationship. Now, the only downside is that you're not controlling the whole process. But as I explained previously in the video, you're not an inventory manager, right? Like, you're a marketer, especially if you have a dropshipping background. You're very good at marketing, so you shouldn't spend like hours every single week trying to manage inventory and stuff, because like, especially if you ship it yourself, it can be very, very overwhelming. You have to hire people still, like even if you hire people, you still have to manage them, okay? And there's a lot of fuck ups you can get into. It's not that simple to manage. Trust me, I've tried to do it. So I would always use a 3PL that is very well known, even if it's a little bit more expensive, just because of that peace of mind you have in your head, and you can simply focus on marketing, okay? That's your biggest leverage as an e-commerce entrepreneur, and that's what you have to keep. And one last final tip I can give to you guys is you can use all of those great benefits that you had from pretty much negotiating very good terms with your supplier and offer it as an additional service on your store, okay? So for example, I have 1-year warranty that's already included from my supplier, okay? On my store, I have 1-year warranty included in the products, which already increases the perceived value of the offer. Then I have an upsell for priority shipping, which again, I'm shipping from the US. I have 3-day shipping, so there's no way for me to even make it faster, but still the take rate on that is huge. And I think I've made like close to 5 figures in pure profit in Q4 just from doing that. And then the last part is I have unlimited lifetime warranty, as well as a 2-year warranty extension on my checkout page and my thank you page, which also add up a chunk of money to my bottom line, okay? So you can upsell all of those services that are already included and are already, provided to your customers for free, and you can make a lot of money on the back end. Now, you can think for yourself how ethical that is. I personally take a big advantage of that because customers value it highly, and even though it doesn't cost me anything and I don't have to actually provide an additional service, it really helps with the business to stay more stable and get additional AOV without even needing to sell an additional product, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like, comment below what you want me to cover next. Make sure to check out my other video, which is how to optimize for the highest AOV possible and how to craft banger offers, where I go much more in depth on how to do those service upsells. If you're a brand owner who's already doing 20, 30, 50K a month with your store and you want to scale to multiple six figures per month like me and my clients, there should be a link down in the description to book a call with me for one-on-one mentorship. But continue crushing it, and I want to see you win. Bye.